Crazy, funky, junky, overslept. As we are both ready, we can get started. And what did you just? That just took me out of it completely.
Can
To
I
each other.
start?
No. Wait, yeah,
Okay.
if you want to, like that's fine
No,
too.
go, do.
No, I just meant.
Do you, boo? Do freaking you.
All right. Prepare for trouble.
Make it double.
Hello, and welcome to On the Cusp of Everything. And we're now available on Spotify.
Stupid.
You know, I feel like you're wearing that shirt now on purpose. It's like, oh, damn, Sarah. It's like, how are you today?
I'm good. At home.
So let's get started.
What?
Over the past 2 weeks, right? Yeah, I know. I feel like this is the way it should be. So over the past 2 weeks, right?
How are you doing? Okay, bitch.
We're all in isolation. We know how it goes, right? Let's be very honest. So in the past 2 weeks, right, I've seen several articles flying around of like different people still traveling during isolation.
So can we talk about that girl that was on ITV, whatever? Good morning.
Oh, you want to talk about her too? Bitch.
I thought that's who we were talking about. Who are we talking about? Who influencer?
Bitch, I'm talking about the other girl that got the pole from Bali.
Let's talk about it.
So basically, very quickly, the one that I came across first was about this woman called Kirsten Grey, who got deported from Bali. I mean, it kind of went haywire. She literally posted something on the 16th of January. By the 20th, she was deported. Like, just like that, 4 days. That's all it took for the, immigration in Bali to take care of that. All it was is, if nobody here knows the story, it's about a woman named Kirsten Grey. Yes, I'm just calling her name out because it's on the BBC.
Yeah.
So it's public knowledge now. Do you get what I mean? But basically, on her Twitter post, she was listing a bunch of benefits of living in Bali, saying that it's safe, low cost of living, you can have a luxury lifestyle, and that it's queer friendly, and also about being Black in the Bali community. So essentially, when she posted this, a bunch of people in Bali saw it and got really angry about it. The reason they got angry, according to what I've read and just different news sources, they're basically saying that it's unfair for her to be promoting this luxury lifestyle, especially during a pandemic. And she's charging people $50, or she was.
For her service.
Yeah, for a 45-minute consultation. And she listed a couple of benefits of living in Bali. And it was legit basically explaining that she went from paying $1,300 to $400 and living in a tree house. Also telling people that they could contact her so she can give them direct links to like her visa agents and how to get into Indonesia basically during COVID. And this is why people, especially Balinese people, start getting annoyed.
They were
So
like, oh, really?
yeah, they were like, oh, really? Well, it's not fair how you're trying to tell people to come to this country during a pandemic just to be living some kind of lavish life. You come here, and when they say you, they mean Americans / Westerners come to Indonesia. Prices are being raised for people who live there, and it affects them in a certain way. Meanwhile, with COVID during a pandemic, we are struggling to even live in our own country. Meanwhile, you're telling everyone else to come here and live lavishly. That's basically what the whole post is and
It's
what's
literally
going on.
Fuck my drag, right? And
Fuck my drag, essentially.
We saw it out there, right? Like right now, especially because Bali is such a tourist location, they have been hit hard. I still have people I know that are in Bali. People that live in Bali are Balinese. And, there's no work. It's like rainy season. It's so hard for everybody right now. They don't have the same luxuries as us or same facilities as us where, people work from home and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to me. I mean, it has been interesting. It's been interesting to think that all these people are able to run away so easily. It's like that chick, the British chick on ITV. Oh my God, like it was about this British influencer that's gone off to Dubai because she needed it and stuff like that. You know, mental health, and she was depressed, and she was locked in, and she's a PT, and she had to be out there to create content or to do whatever. But it's like, I thought we were all in the same boat. Like, I wish I could fly my ass out of here and just live like nothing is happening, but I'm not gonna, you know? And I get it. The problem is I get it.
Yeah. I mean,
If you have the
definitely, like we've had the
means, I
luxury
guess,
of
you know what I
living
mean?
for a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like there are a lot of people who have things that they go out to work for, and that's fair enough. And I get that, you know, if that is your lifestyle and that's what's paying your bills, then go out and get your bills. But this girl was a PT, and she was like, she literally even said, everything that I do out in Dubai, I can do in England. Like, she just takes home videos online. The only thing she goes out in Dubai is for motivation for everyone. And get this, her motivation is us looking at her pictures in bikinis, eating good food, out in the poolside, living her best life. And that's going to be motivation for me, because I'm going to be like, oh my God, I
I
can't believe.
mean, I don't know if that will motivate me per se.
It's like, okay, for the average person, you and I, you know, maybe it's not that like hurtful. It's hard. It's obviously hard for everybody, but I feel like, you know, there are people out there that are working front line. You have, you know, people that have the situation constantly around them, and they are unable to escape it, maybe even when they deserve it the most.
Yeah, I get
That's
what you're
where it's
saying.
kind of like, you're being a little selfish here. These people should be able to just go out on vacation for 2 weeks. You know, your nurses, your doctors, your essential workers, the people that have been freaking busting their asses off this entire time, they should
Yeah.
be able to go to Dubai for 2 weeks.
See, what I
But
think is interesting, I feel like everybody should just try their best to abide to the rules as best as possible. But I think what's interesting about all of that is that it's a Western privilege. And when I say Western privilege, I do mean a lot of European countries and America as well.
yeah,
We
because
have the
this
money
is
to do
beyond
so, right?
COVID and lockdown and rules, right?
Yeah,
This is kind of just like another level of entitlement.
it
Like,
is.
but yeah, go on.
Whether people accept it or not, it is. Traveling within itself is a luxury. Like, not everybody in the world just gets to travel. Not everybody just has money to be like, let me give up everything that I've worked for to go and live another life, start somewhere else. But not just starting fresh, because there are actual immigrants who start completely fresh with no money whatsoever and go through a struggle just to get their lives together. Whereas for us as Westerners, and I'm saying us because we have that same privilege, is that thing of, okay, I'm going to this country and I know, or even in the back of my head, I know that somehow, some way, I have some way, what is the word? A blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a blanket. They'll see my face, they'll know I'm not from there, and maybe they'll treat me with a little bit more respect, and I don't have to abide to the rules the same way. I can easily turn around and be like, I'm a dumb Westerner.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's that kind of being able to that, like, you know, bringing it back to that Kirsten girl, telling other Westerners that they can come out and make this lifestyle, and it's so much cheaper than back home, and it's so much better. The sun is, you know, shining. There's beaches. There's cheap food. Cheap for you because you came with your American dollars.
Yeah,
Like, y'all are coming to this country, y'all, lol. You all are coming into this country trying to be like, oh my God, the lifestyle's so good here. And it's so much better. I can't believe no one is actually like living out organically and just living it simple. And it's like, no, it's not simple, because if you are a local, you would have to work your ass off to be able to live that lifestyle. Yes, you may be living by the beach, but you're serving tourists at the moment. No one's out there living their wildest dreams of what they could achieve, you
yeah.
know?
I,
You're coming into these places and you're just like, I hate the Western world. It's so like polluted and it's so
yeah.
disgusting and it's a
Yeah,
rat
and
race.
this is what
You're allowed
some
to
of the
say
other
these things.
posts,
Yeah.
sorry, this is what some of the other posts were about as well. They don't have an issue of her living there, because I feel like some people were trying to make a really big issue out of it. Some people was trying to, well, she said at first
Yeah.
they kicked her out because of because she posted about LGBT being safe, and essentially that's the reason why that she was kicked out. She later on retracted her statement. So this was a day ago, actually. She said, "I made a mistake. I made many mistakes writing and publishing the thread on my social media. I'm sorry to Balinese people for promoting travel to the island during this time. I ask you kindly to accept my apology, and I'll do my best to spread the message of ethical travel to Bali when it's safe," she wrote. She also said, um, "For exposing you all," so the LGBT community, "my off-base statements of the island of Bali being friendly to me and my queer partner," because there were LGBT people saying that they don't have the luxury of being as safe as she is because she's a Westerner inside the country, and people or the community doesn't care for her as much because
Right.
essentially Western people bring in money. They were also made, yeah, so essentially because she made that statement, she's now sort of apologized for it. However, it still doesn't change the fact that this has now happened, and this is
This
still
is a
happening.
reality.
Yeah, this
It's a
is a reality.
reality.
And I feel like a lot of
And
people
she's not the
should,
first.
this is not the first. She
And
isn't the
she's not the
first.
first to be the person to be promoting a lifestyle. Okay, maybe it's just expanded more, like you said, because of the time that we're in, especially. But this is not the first time that Westerners have gone off to Bali and, tried to promote this lifestyle.
No,
Um,
exactly. Because when the other side of the internet was saying that it was about race, um, the Balinese officers were very quick to say, look at all these Russians, all these Europeans that we have essentially gotten rid of. They mentioned specifically Russians because they recently got rid of two Russian men that also made a statement about being in Bali essentially and just breaking the
mm,
rules. That's why they mentioned that. But except for that, a lot of Westerners and a lot of Europeans have been recently taken out of Bali as well because they're all overstaying their stay because they just want to be there and then don't want to go home. But the problem as well is when you're working in a place and not paying taxes, you are basically doing something illegal. That same stunt does not work here. People get very
when
angry
they
very
go,
quickly if somebody would do that here. And I think it's fair for the Balinese community, the Indonesian community, to make that same statement and be angry and kick people out because they want to be ensure that they're safe as well.
yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it's the whole thing is you're an immigrant out there. If you're gonna stay and do illegal work, then you're an illegal immigrant. Because call it as it is. That's what you call us.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what you call us when we come down here. So why is it suddenly an expat?
Oh,
And
let's not even talk about that. I think explaining the difference between an expat and an immigrant is a whole different light now. I don't even know if we have time to go into detail about that.
I just feel like at the end of the day, of course, us out here living in England, we want the sun. I would love to live somewhere nice and tropical and go out there and live my best life. I feel like everybody right now needs a holiday. And like I said, being in England right now, it's so bleak. We're worsening in cases. COVID aside, it's like the winter time. A lot of people do go on holiday around this time of year, but a lot of people are making sacrifices. And I just feel like it's especially with British people, like we've been caught everywhere in the world. Like
Yeah.
we are locked out of everywhere now. They're like, no, no more, please, you're done. Finn, it's just kind of like stop, stop, just
Yeah.
stop.
I mean, the whole world is dealing with a lot of stuff, isn't it? So I think it's just part of this, just take a personal responsibility, be aware of stuff, stop being ignorant. We just don't have an excuse anymore to stay
Ugh, I don't even
ignorant.
want to talk
We just
about
don't.
ignorance
There's just no
anymore
reason
because
for people to continuously be ignorant. You know, you spend a lot of time on the internet, possibly just going through your feed, going through your posts, looking at meme pages, taking them as news. But you can just definitely do some research yourself and think. how can I do better, especially in a situation like this that may affect more than one community. This reminded me actually of the time then when we were traveling, and I was thinking about it. You see this a lot, even the fact of how people are treated or how people treat others, especially when, let's say, when we were in Bali, seeing how Western people treated Balinese people, and the treatment they expected from them. Oh, I'm on holiday, you should treat me like this. It's like, but
I
why?
think for me it was like, because to be fair, like people are nice, and because Balinese
Mm,
people are such nice people and they're so hospitable and so giving, that it's kind of like, they're out here just trying to sort of please. What gets me is, like you said, but it's not necessarily like being mean or like talking down. It's a certain type of entitlement. I think it's an air. It's just like an air of, I know that I'm here and I can do what I want. What gets me is this sense of finding freedom. So they go out there and you get get into the island vibes, and you get into this really, Ubud in Bali is a complete yoga hub, and it's just so overtaken by this Western idea of what Bali is,
yeah,
that
I
it's
mean,
a
it's
sense of we
gentrification in its
own
own way, isn't
you.
it?
Yeah, it's kind of just like a whole like we own you kind of deal. Like, oh yeah, we know we're out here and we're being respectful and we're doing all these things, but we know what kind of impact we have on
Yeah,
this.
but this is I think where Western privilege comes in. It's kind of essentially being like, let's say I'm moved from England to come to this country. I'm bringing all my English, how I'm treated in England, how things are in England, and I'm gonna expect everything to be exactly the same without considering what your country is like. And that's the problem. Some people that we met were very, very nice people. However, they just couldn't fathom the fact that they could have been disrespectful because they're trying to be respectful in whatever European standard Western way, wherever they came from. Like, but this is how I do it. When this in this country, we don't behave like this. Like this is how we show respect. And it's like I fully get that and I fully understand that. But have you forgotten that you're also here? So combine those two together, especially as somebody who's not even from England, I had to immediately be like, hey, this country is foreign. I need to understand its rules and not just think this is exactly like the Netherlands. It just
But
isn't.
that's because that's how we're trapped. Like that's trapped. That was very northern of me. That's how we're kind of subjected to thought in terms of like when we come here, our parents tell us don't cross the police, follow the law, do everything that you're supposed to, because there's such a fear of you do anything wrong, or you step out any
Anything,
way of line. It's like
anything.
it's like girl, you're leaving. And so I feel like especially with parents and people that come here, there is a sense of kind of like a fear of disrupting the law or doing anything in any kind of way because you're first to go out.
Yeah,
Whereas
because it's being
in
misunderstood, right?
yeah, but whereas when now Westerners go over to foreign countries, like you said, their laws still apply. So instead of them complying with the laws of the land, they're like, oh, but we are so much, we're not savage like you guys. We are so
Where's
much more
that accent coming
classy.
from?
I mean, the OG colonizers. But you know what I mean? Like it's very like uppity, like, oh, but our rules make more sense than yours, therefore we're gonna
Yeah.
follow ours and
And
not
that's where the
yours.
disrespect comes from, right? In a way, without you possibly, and I want to say for some people it's ignorance, for some people they damn well know what they're doing. But when you're being ignorant about it, you need to understand that by saying that you are better, you're putting someone below you. When you do that, that is an offense within itself because now these people aren't being treated equally, which you state is what you're doing.
I just find it very interesting because, both me and you come from backgrounds of which we have seen the other side of the world, not just England or the UK and America and Australia or whatever the Western worlds are. We live all around the world, and you've got family here and there and everywhere. And we know what it's like to just genuinely, as just people, do you know what I mean, to live in these countries. We understand how it is, we understand the struggles, we understand the day to day. It affects us because it affects our families, do you know what I mean? Things that we hear from back home, and like feeling like, you know, you're helpless and whatnot. But like, for ages, white people have just been, and not necessarily just white people, but this is, I feel, where it stemmed. And now, like we said, it's not just, it's a Western thing now. So a lot of, you know, first gen, second gen, third gen kids of this age, I put them all in that same category of being Western, right? So when they, what how it began is obviously with colonization and stuff like that. It was like holiday homes. It's like, oh, we're just gonna tour this country, now it's ours. We're just gonna go see and delight in the sunlight and build nice houses, and you know, this belongs to us. They literally went and picked a paradise island. Like, they were like, oh, we need a vacation, let's buy
I
a whole
mean, they definitely had that thought, but
buy.
their actions were much harsher than that. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
We are
yeah, it wasn't
not
necessarily
saying
buying,
whatsoever
it
that.
was more like
Yeah,
taint, murder, but okay.
yeah.
You know, whatever happened then, but that mentality kept going down. I mean, I remember always, you know, growing up and like seeing Kenya as the staple of Africa kind of thing, the face of Africa for years and years and years. You know, when you see any kind of movie or TV show that would depict what Africa was like, or in the jungle, they would always use Swahili, or they would always, you know, have mention Kenya, and that was because it was the hotspot and years ago. Do you know what I mean? That was the hotspot for a lot of Westerners, and you know, especially Europeans, to come into Kenya because it had a safari. You know, it was
And you
whatever. It
got to
was
see
a lot
that.
of,
Did you get to see that firsthand as well?
oh yeah, yeah, man. The way that you'd literally, every time I'd go home to visit, go back to see family and stuff like that, it would always be like, you know, the white people that kind of stayed there. Those are, you know, the
Mm.
loads of Dutch, loads of Germans, loads of British people, and they would always, you know, take the nice houses and get their private beaches and buy like loads of land and just have their own space. And it was literally vacation homes, or some people would like live there, and like it was just super rich people. You can just, you know, it was just all rich people that were there, and they would obviously work and be alongside. But it's kind of, again, that security blanket that we were talking about. It's like, of course, you know, you can enjoy the country because, and the problem is you saw the polar opposite so much. Like, it was there, it was all like in one place. You saw like the really rich and the really poor, and it was just like the next door to each other kind of things at some points. I mean, there was a lot of course, different things happening in all other places, but it was just interesting to see it kind of
Yeah.
from such a
I
young
mean,
age. We always knew that it was the Europeans, the white people, that would go and have these kind of holiday homes, or just, you know, set up base here or go here, or they just travel. Oh, we want to go see lions. And I remember going down to the Congo once, and it was just all like almost like going to the zoo, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And I feel like that's, it stemmed from there. And now it's kind of the same thing, you know, you have backpackers and trust fund kids, and they were like, I'm going to take a year off to find myself.
Yeah.
And
And again,
we did that,
exactly.
but
But
it was,
that's where
we
privilege comes
like,
from, isn't it? Like, you need to be in the right position sometimes to be able
yeah,
to give up certain things to do
yeah.
so.
And not a lot of
Or
people of color from Western worlds do that, we found,
no,
as
they don't.
travelers. Like, not
They
a lot of us.
absolutely don't. We are still a minority when we are traveling, and the majority of people that you still see, even as backpackers, are white people. So that's just the truth. There's nothing
From all types of white, all
non-factual
types of
about
white.
that. Yeah, everything.
Like, you got your
So
Australians, your Germans,
majority.
Americans,
And
you,
again, we've met many people who do have that respect, who do have that knowledge. They are very, very well aware of what is going on. And you can't fault anyone for wanting to travel and just for wanting to go on holiday. There's nothing wrong with that. But then let's say something very basic, like I'll see people complaining about the mess that's on the beach and say stuff like, why are these Cambodians not getting rid of the trash that's on the beach? And
oh,
I'm
I,
literally looking at the wrapping and I'm like, this is not even from this country. Like, someone like you or me just put this here, just threw it away onto the beach, was hoping that someone would take care of it, and you are going to complain like it's someone's actual responsibility because they live here to get rid of it. That doesn't roll right with me. That doesn't make sense.
You get people that are coming in like, oh my God, we should stop using this and do this. And oh, they really don't care of their beaches, or, you know, like you said, they don't take care of their land, and they don't know what they got, and blah, blah, blah. Do they know about global? It's like, what? Like, y'all bought it here. Y'all, you guys,
Again,
like, even half of the trash that flowed into the
I
beaches was
think,
from the West. Like,
yeah, and
literally.
asking if people know about global warming, again, I hope that anyone hearing this understands that we are very lucky to have an actual education system here that informs us about things like global warming and what happens when you don't recycle properly, for example. And there are a lot of countries, they all have these education systems. However, the difference is not everybody can actually afford to go to school, right? We get the luxury of being told, you have to go to school, you have to learn this. A lot of us hate it and a lot of us dislike it, fair, but we still got the luxury of actually going. And you only realize how much of a luxury it is when you meet someone that says, I wish I went to school, I wish I had the opportunity to go, but I had to work,
Yeah.
right? And I think when people don't realize that, it's annoying and it's stressful, because this is then when you say something like, well, I can't believe they didn't know that. And it's like, well, I can. It
Yeah.
makes complete sense. You know, just because I went to school and maybe I didn't learn about something very specific, but I got the luxury to educate and open my mind in a way where when that information is given to me, I can process it because I can put one and one together based on maybe something else I've learned. Whereas other people, they learn things as they go and as they meet people. Hence why you would definitely meet people like local people that would live in the places that we visit. They'll be like, yeah, I enjoy meeting Westerners because they give me kind of information that I wasn't aware of, or I'm able to ask questions and confirm certain things that I may have seen on television.
Right. Things like even learning English, like how important that is now. And it's like a lot of people want to speak to foreigners because
Yeah.
they
I
have to
think the
learn
one
English. But
thing,
go on.
I'll say the one thing I really enjoyed is, and I don't know if you remember, we went to this restaurant and there was this one boy, his parents asked him to take our orders because they didn't speak any English, and he was
Oh
learning English
yeah.
through YouTube. And I loved that. It's self-taught, and I'm somebody that taught myself English. So seeing people take that method, it's so great because it's kind of saying, I'm putting my effort into understanding this, so to speak, but also I'm teaching myself random things at all
No, but you
times, you know?
have to.
Like
You have
I'm not even going to
now.
school for this. I'm actually
But
just learning it by just watching people speak, reading subtitles. That to
yeah, but
me is a
this is
major
my whole
achievement.
point. This is my whole point. You have to now. There's no option. Like
Yeah.
if you want to get far in the world, you know, and this is the world, if you want to get far in your own country, which sometimes feels impossible for a lot of people because, again, the dreamland ticket is the Western world, right?
So they
That's
say.
where you want to chase, right? That's where people are striving to be. They want to all be there. English is the first thing for everybody right now. Like everybody needs to know English, unfortunately, and it is. I mean, I have like, okay, in one way, it's nice, and this is purely because I speak English, you know, as my main language now, I guess, because that's all, you know, you get used to just speaking English to so many people that you forget all the other languages that you know. Um, I do know a little bit Arabic and Swahili, but let's not start. But it's kind of that thing of like English has become the ticket to further yourself. Because even if you want to, you know, do things online or whatever, in order to make it successfully internationally, the first thing everyone teaches themselves is English. And that's why everything's catered into the Western world, in terms of like tourism, things like that. Like you see tourism in Paris, you see tourism in London, you see tourism in Netherlands, you
See
see tourism
tourism
everywhere,
everywhere.
but the whole country is not relying on just solely that money.
Yeah.
You know, people have normal jobs, people are doing things, and people are in so many different industries, and people are thriving. Whereas what I found a lot in traveling is a lot of these young kids, and it was always young kids, young boys especially, working out in these hostels, working out in these, restaurants, etc., etc. Barely 20, barely freaking 18 sometimes. And they would be like, every single one would like, university to go to do tourism is a thing. Like that's the thing that most of them say they want to do, hospitality tourism, because unfortunately that's all they really
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I
do.
get
I
it.
mean, of course
And
there's other paths, but again, it's like the expense.
yeah. And I think only because of COVID do you see that really and truly. If the job I was doing relied solely on tourism, I'm now heavily unemployed until tourism starts again in my country, because there are many jobs even here in the Western country where some people are just doing it for the sake of money. And I will feel, and I think this is just my opinion, that I think that some people would do that same job based on that. So if I lived in the country where tourism was high and I went to university just to study tourism, I'm doing it because I want to bring in some money, right? And I think that it's going to be lucrative. Nobody ever thought that there was going to be a time where tourism is just ending. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist, basically. There is still, as we know, there are people still clearly traveling, and only a small minority is being catered for. But the bigger part of it, they're not actually, they're out of jobs. It's simple as
Yeah.
that. That's the fact. So I definitely see what you're saying there. But it's painful to see. I just want to say, I do think tourism should be looked at. It should be looked at in a way where when anyone goes to any country, you just have to be more aware and really respect what is going on there. Don't just expect that you're going to a foreign country, even if it's just a neighboring country, that they're going to have the same rules, same laws as you, right? You can't just expect that.
It's literally like cross borders, not boundaries. Okay. That's all it is. I feel like it's a term of respect. I agree with everyone, like being able to explore this earth, because oh my god, you sound like such a hippie right now. But like everyone should be able to explore the earth. Everyone
Yeah,
should be able to
100%.
see the world and for the beauty that it is. Everywhere in the world is beautiful in its own way, right? But with that, you kind of have to just be very aware of your surroundings. And I just wish that we were in a world where everywhere in the world was thriving so we can all enjoy it all together. I would love for all my friends from all around the world, everyone from everywhere around the world, to be able to access these countries and access these places as easily as we are able to access it. It's so crazy how important what that piece of paper, aka your passport, is. Until, talking to my cousins in other countries that have Yemeni passports, which is like one of the worst that you can have right now, and how restrictive it is. It really defines your life. And having a British passport means you have access pretty much everywhere. It means you have a bit more right and a bit more leeway in how you want to maneuver in certain places, which is why I think it's so easy for Western people with the European, British, American, Australian passports to be able to just land themselves in these situations so easily. Just something so simple as your passport. It doesn't even
Yeah.
matter if you're rich, you're poor, you're whatever. It's literally that piece of paper is already elevated you. That little booklet is already taking you to the next step. It's already put you above a lot of
Yeah.
people.
This is why you just gotta check your privilege. If you
Yeah.
want to enjoy yourself, you gotta help our people out as well. It's really as simple as that.
And of course, in an ideal world, it would be totally fixable. Like I said, if every country on this earth was thriving and doing its thing individually, it would be so much fun for everyone to just explore the world. And But when we have, you know, poverty and war and just things that are going on that are like literally just the way we're doing the planet, stealing all its resources and leaving it to run dry when we're bored of it. You know, there's a new holiday location every 10 years. There's a new place that people want to go because the old place has gotten too touristy. Oh, next thing, Bali's way too touristy. We should all go to Vietnam beaches, or we should all go to Cambodia. We should all go here. And then everyone goes there and messes it up. And then it's like, okay, that place has gotten so touristy now. It is so not hip anymore. Let's just totally go to the other, you know, island and make
Yeah.
that. And
I
it's
mean,
sad.
it'll get to a point, right, where else you gonna go? But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think one of the reasons I just brought it up is because I thought it was really important to look at stuff like this, because when the world does play again and everybody does start traveling, I just think it's important to really be aware of the potential damage that we may be doing when we go to other countries. It doesn't stop us from enjoying ourselves, but it's just about being little bit more aware. And that's why I was kind of happy as well that she decided to apologize. Now, is she gonna do the right thing? I'm not sure about it whatsoever, but to just acknowledge some sort of fault and just be like, I'm gonna try and do better. Great. Why not? I mean, in between her apology, she did the stunt of, well, I didn't really do anything wrong, but
That's what I mean. These apologies nowadays
step in
are
it.
so
dot dot dot.
like,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's so sad because, again, it's kind of like, where do you stop these people doing their thing, right? These kids want to leave and they want to live, enjoy their lives, and a lot of them being influencers, and a lot of them are getting paid to live this lifestyle, right? It's like, of course, who wouldn't want to just sit around on a beach all day and live their best lives and eat good food? It's just sad. I just have no idea where it's going. And I think until all these countries just say no more. And that's what happened in Thailand when we were out there, right? Thailand started getting a bit stricter on
yeah.
like overseas teachers and stuff like that. And they were like, no, we're getting rid of all of y'all, like get out of here.
But
We're,
it's
numbering
because
it
a lot of
down.
them were there illegally. That's very important to mention.
Yeah.
They were there illegally. These weren't people that were there working legally and were there fair. So that's
Mhm.
the big difference. And I think it's also important. Like the other day, I read that the Netherlands, they're they're not ban tourism, but they're trying to stop a lot of tourists from coming in the country, because a lot of the time when people just come there, they like to just smoke the marijuana, and
I
then
just want to marry Joanna. She's very
but what
nice.
they do then is leave most of the tourist spots a mess, right? And this is what the country is angry about, the fact that they don't take care of the places that they go. So any country that does the same is completely fair and square to do that. We just have to
Absolutely.
blame the people before us, but also take our own responsibility for it, because like we will probably talk about this a whole nother day. We traveled as well for a year, and there's definitely things I can look back at and be like, should have done differently.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 100% a learning curve, but it's literally about being aware. I'm just interested to see what post COVID travel is going to look like. Or
Guys, please let us know what you think about this. Get involved in the conversation. Like, I really want to know. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Is tourism a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Let us know what you think about this, and
what
we'll
is
see
Western
you.
privilege?
What is Western privilege?
And do you have it?
Do you own it? Do you acknowledge it? Let us know. With that said, I'm off now. It's getting hot in my little studio. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Bye bye bye.